live. This week in adoption. Thank God I have my coffee. So I've been doing something new with my coffee. I listen to these podcasts about health and longevity and microbiome, and anybody else into that? So we all know turmeric is really good for you. And I've heard about this before. I think it used to be called bullet coffee. But I came across this recipe for turmeric coffee that's supposed to be good for everything, metabolism, weight loss, all the things. So it's 16 ounces, 16 ounces of coffee, a dab of turmeric, a dab of turmeric and cinnamon, a little drop of English toffee stevia with a little bit of pink sea salt, which takes the aftertaste bitterness of the stevia out. And you're supposed to do grass-fed butter and MCT oil or coconut oil, extra virgin coconut oil. That's what I've been using. Put it all in there. I've been leaving out the butter because I'm not sure if I have grass-fed or not. And zhuzh it up. It's delicious. Whether or not it's doing anything for this physique, the verdict is still out. But it's good. I also don't think it counts for intermittent fasting anymore, which is what I have been doing. But I still don't eat until later. I don't know. 'Tis what it tis. Good morning. Good Thursday morning, everybody. This week in adoption, what has come up in our communities, online, in the world? Well, let me tell you. We had a new client that recently asked about preparing for her home study because she thought it was going to be in a month and it ended up being in a couple days, and she was freaking out and went to the community, and we have the best community ever. And she's like, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to prepare? So I'm here to share that with you, which basically is, don't worry. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be all right. Okay, enough with that little interlude. But no, seriously, they're not looking to check dust or make sure the house smells good, although hopefully it does. They're not, they're looking for safety. So if you have a pool, you'll probably be required to have a fence around it. Things like that. Fire extinguisher. If you don't have one, they'll tell you to get one. Then you'll just have to show them that you got it. They'll talk to you about safety as far as any poisonous stuff either being raised or locked. But they are not worried as far as the everything being in order and neat and all that stuff. So really, it's relaxed. They do a million of these things. They're not judging your home, how much you have, how little you have, how neat you keep things or not. They want to make sure you have the correct space. They want to make sure your house is safe for a little one. So that came up. Ooh. The next thing that came up, excuse me, let me take a sip of my turmeric cinnamon deliciousness. I think one of my team members bought me this, pretty sure. That mug. Special facilities for weaning babies. Oh yeah, this came up now twice in the last month and I had never heard of this. I don't know if it's a good thing, if it's suggested, if it's not suggested. I'm imagining it's a good thing because they have these things that I'm just now hearing about. But has anybody else heard about their special facilities that just house babies who have just been born who have to wean off drugs, who have to wean off exposures of whatever? So they're probably going through withdrawal, um, maybe from fetal alcohol syndrome, maybe from drug exposure. And I've always just heard that they stay in the NICU. Well, in some cities across the world, they have special facilities that you can transfer the babies to, and that's all they do is help babies wean off. Maybe it's because they have more staff. I don't know, but that's their expertise. So if you've heard of this and you have any insight, pro, con, good, bad, I'd love to hear about that. So ultimately, the client who brought this up and was asking about it was asking advice of the community, and I don't think our community has really heard of it too, because there wasn't a lot of feedback for that. So I'd love yours. But ultimately, they decided to stay put, to stay in the hospital in the NICU. And I think one of the deciding factors, because they were nervous, do we transfer baby? Do we not? Will that affect the baby negatively? One of the deciding factors for them was that they got a spot in the local Ronald McDonald House, which is huge. And it's something that we share with families to look into if they know that their family is going to have a NICU stay. Not every city and not every hospital has a Ronald McDonald House near it. But if you're at a major hospital, chances are there might be a Ronald McDonald House. And so if you know you're going to have a NICU stay, why not look into it? They're beautifully maintained. There's free food. They give you, in this case, my client said when I was walking through and they showed me that there was a washer and dryer, I just cried, because it's the little things that you don't even think of when you're away from home trying to care for a newborn who's in the NICU withdrawing from drugs, and sometimes you just need to do some laundry. So it's those little things, the food, the laundry, and people there to take care of you during this difficult time. So that was the deciding factor for them. But I'm curious if you've ever heard of these special facilities. I don't know exactly even what they're called, but that care for NICU babies who are withdrawing. What to do when an expectant mom stops responding. And this was specifically asked about post placement, like they had been communicating and then it just stopped. And the question was, and this was, I don't know if this was over a couple years or what. And the question was, as the adoptive parent, should you continue to send photos and updates when your child's birth mom has stopped responding to you? But initially, that's what was agreed upon, or that's what had been done. An excellent question. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of advice around this, and people had varying degrees of pretty much the same thing. I think the overall consensus was to, I can't remember if they said ask her, although now that I'm thinking about that, maybe that doesn't make sense. But I think it was keep sending updates. Maybe stop with the pictures or ask her, just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I want to keep sending updates. I know I haven't heard from you, and I don't want to overstep my boundaries. Let me know if it feels too much right now, and I won't. Let me know if you want me to keep doing that, and I will. So sometimes if you just ask the question and give her permission to say no or yes, or it's too hard, or I can't talk, but I still want it, maybe she will if you open that door. You are dealing with a person, right? So how would you want to be dealt with in that situation? Would you want someone just to ask you, or keeps, you can't make assumptions. And at the same time, you don't want to just stop. You want to continue holding up your end of the agreement for sure, whatever you agreed on. And at the same time, if you see that she has pulled away, it's okay to address that in a non-judgmental way, because of course you're not judging her for it. You just want to know what your role should be at this juncture in time. So that doesn't mean you should take the cue to completely stop. You have to continue doing what you're doing, but maybe stop sending pictures for a while. Maybe it's too much. Maybe just check in, ask her the question, see if you get a response. And this is also another scenario for an adoption competent therapist. A couple other things came up. Hold on. Sip of the turmeric. Get things going. That I'm just remembering. Two things. Sometimes people are worried about putting your full names on a profile. If you are somebody who is in the public eye, easily found if you are Googled, and you're nervous about that. You're nervous of maybe somebody seeing that and jumping on, being opportunistic and trying to, and maybe seeing an opportunity to take advantage of you or something. So I have worked with families like this over the years, who are nervous about that and nervous about putting their names on their profile. So I've seen a couple things, and I grapple with this a little bit. I had to actually call another agency director to get some advice. I have seen people change the spelling of their name when it's maybe a common name, but they spell it so different that if somebody Googled that in their city, they would immediately know who it is. So changing the spelling, that's fine. I get that. Changing your names completely felt really weird and uncomfortable to me, because I feel like you never want to just start this whole process on a lie. And I also understand that there are people out there that will be opportunistic, see an opportunity to take advantage of someone and try to match with you, unfortunately. So I was talking to this agency director and who said, I have seen people do that and am okay with it if after they match, they say, here's who we are, here's why we did that. We wanted you to match with us for us and not who we were. But here's who we are. And basically just tell the truth right away at that point. Or for me, I think maybe a good compromise would be take a close rendition of your name. So if your name is, let's see, Christina, maybe you use Chris or you use Tina or something like that. So it's not super obvious. So that came up. And the other thing was I had a conversation with clients who just adopted, and they know they're supposed to start sharing the story, their child's story from day one, which I always recommend. And they found out some things that they weren't aware of previously after the baby was born about the mom that could be very difficult information to receive. It could change the way you think about yourself. It could change, whatever. It was a mental health condition. And they said, I know it's too early now, but when and do we share that? When do we share that? How do we share that? And I reminded them that, number one, this is a perfect example of why we always recommend working with an adoption competent therapist from the get-go, from the start of your journey. There are things that you are grappling with that you don't even realize you're grappling with that you need to grapple with. And there are also things that are going to come up that you're not quite sure how to handle. And this was one of it. They just wanted to think it through right now. And my advice was, number one, come to our next circle of support call when we work with an adoption competent therapist and bring this up and see what they have to say. Number two is we always want to be 100. Keep it real. Tell the full story to our children in age-appropriate ways when the time is right. We never want to hold anything back from our children because they deserve the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Even if it's hard, they deserve to know their whole truth, even when it's hard. But I love the fact that they're thinking about it now to get some advice, to get some words, to get some knowledge about things that can be put in place for them as their child grows and maybe more comes out. So these were all such amazing. I love our community. Our community asks such great questions. And I love going on to various adoption communities all over social media and seeing what people are asking. So when I show up here every week, I want to answer those questions, bring up some things that have come up within our community and online. And if you have any questions, I invite you to submit those questions to at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com or any way you know how to reach us. I would love to be able to answer those live right here. So have a great week. Keep staying focused on your roadmap if you are on your adoption journey. If you stray, that's okay. Get back on, build a supportive team around you, and have a great rest of your week. That's it for today. Bye-bye. And